Folks, I have to tell you, some of the people in the national sports media are such fools when it comes to what they talk about with the Packers, things that they drum up and come up with. I heard somebody say something to this effect again today, that, oh, it's been great for the Packers because Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur have essentially been able to bury the hatchet. What hatchet exactly are you talking about? There was never a problem with Rodgers and LaFleur. There was never any sort of an issue. The problem was between Rodgers and McCarthy, and the reason that that was a problem was because Mike McCarthy was a bumbling buffoon. And Aaron Rodgers essentially said as much. You can go back and reference the piece from Tyler Dunn. But it was exactly true. That's why they didn't get along. But this had nothing to do with LaFleur, so they haven't overcome some great obstacle. The issue became whether or not Aaron Rodgers would be coachable after the relationship that he had with McCarthy. And again, I go back to it. Imagine you have a boss at work who you not only have to work for, but you have to work very closely with, and you have to do that for many, many years. And suddenly, you just can't take it anymore because you think that that boss is such an idiot, has no clue what he's doing, which, by the way, folks, this is turning out to be the case with McCarthy. Many of us knew that that was the case ever since day one, but whatever. Everyone learns at a different pace. That's fine. The point is, when you go to work and you have that frustrating boss that you don't like working with, that's all done in private. Nobody knows about that. With Rodgers and an NFL team, when you don't like your coach, the head coach, quarterback not getting along, that all plays out in the public eye. So the narrative became, well, Aaron Rodgers really doesn't get along with coaches, and which was not true. He didn't get along with one coach, Mike McCarthy, who Rodgers said had the lowest football IQ of any coach he'd ever been around. That's where the problem was. There never was a problem with Matt LaFleur. There was never a problem with other coaches that Rodgers had. It was an isolated incident with Mike McCarthy because McCarthy had no offense. He relied solely on Aaron Rodgers, wouldn't use Aaron Jones, couldn't figure out how to use the rest of the talent that he had. At any rate, the Packers have big things to look forward to in the second half of the season. Think about this. We're halfway through the season. Packers are 7-1. And going into the year, everyone agreed that the first half of the season was going to be the really tough part for Green Bay because you had a rookie head coach, new offense for Aaron Rodgers, plus you had some of the toughest games on your schedule. Throw in some of the injuries that the Packers had, and if you would have predicted that before the season started, you probably would have said, through 8 games, I'd be happy if the Packers were 3-5. Here they are, 7-1. So I would say they have pretty big plans for the second half of the season because the tough part's over. The adjustment to the LaFleur offense is probably not complete, but it is rapidly approaching completion to the point where everyone's feeling comfortable. You see that every single week. It's getting there on offense, and the toughest part of their schedule's done. They're going to have to play the 49ers. That's going to be a tough game. They're going to still have to go to Detroit. They're going to have to go to Minnesota. Those are going to be tough, but the big part of the Packers' schedule in the adjustment period with the LaFleur offense, that part is done. You're getting Adams back. You can look forward to some pretty big things in the second half of the season. Hopefully the defense can clean up its mistakes, which still have to be addressed. They still have to be fixed. The tackling has not been good enough. The secondary has been getting gashed for big yards. And I do want to point this out before I end this quick video. Here's something to keep in mind. So a lot of people will hang their hat for the Packer defense that has been struggling. Now, some people don't want to talk about that. It's too negative. They don't want to do that. Well, here's something to keep in mind. Those people who think that everything is all well and good with the Packer defense, they'll point to the fact that the Packers have one of the best scoring defenses in the NFL. So maybe their points per game isn't too bad, but think about this. It's not really a good barometer of how that defense has been playing recently, because they've only played 8 games. If we're talking about points per game, it's skewed because they've only played 8 games, and week 1 against the Bears, they only gave up 3 points. This defense that we've seen really since the Eagle game has not been the same defense that we saw against Chicago in week 1, Minnesota in week 2. So that's something to keep in mind. The defense has to fix its problems of the missed tackles. The defense has to fix the big, huge chunk plays that they're giving up through the air, and the defense still has not fixed their run game problems. So they have some work to do there. Assuming that gets fixed to something that is, top 15, and I'm talking about every category of their defense, not just scoring defense. If they can get that defense to top 15 with the way that this offense is settled in with LaFleur and Rodgers, and then you add to the fact that Adams is coming back, Packers are going to do big things in the second half.